So he's like, here's what you have to say when you first meet the person. And here's like 10 ways to close the sale. And if this doesn't work, try this. If that doesn't work, do this. And it all sounded so phony to me. It just wasn't stuff I would say. And I wasn't comfortable talking that way to anybody. So I decided early on, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to be a regular guy.
Are you looking to improve your sales without resorting to pushy tactics? Welcome to Sales Made Easy, the podcast that helps you to achieve better sales results and gain long-lasting clients through relational selling. Let's get right into it. Welcome to another episode of the Sales Made Easy podcast. The best compliment in the world is when someone says, you don't even act like a salesperson. Well, I've got that guy with me this morning, and that is none other than Barry Karch. He and I came from the same cloth, and we're going to have a conversation about how unsalespeople can succeed in sales. So, Barry, welcome to the Sales Made Easy podcast.
Hi, Harry. Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited about it. And yes, I do think our values and our methods are very much aligned.
Yeah, we're going to have to dig into that a little bit. So, one of the things, I'm not sure, I forgot how we met, but it was through another person. Then I was talking about the conversation about introverts. And they said, well, you need to chat with this guy, and that guy is you. Do you call yourself an introvert, by the way, or is that just, did I confuse that with someone else?
No, I consider myself an introvert. Well, I am an introvert. I'm just starting to get comfortable coming out and saying it. To me, it sometimes sounds like a negative image of somebody, but it doesn't have to be, and it really isn't. Introverts have many strengths that help them succeed in sales. But to answer your question, yes, I do identify myself as an introvert.
When people think of sales, they think of, the things that come to mind are very outgoing, type A personalities, always talking. You know, if someone talks a lot, someone will say, you should be in sales because you like to talk. So what is it about you that how you can succeed in an industry that is known for being very talkative and outgoing and, that type of persona?
Yeah, good question, Harry. You know what? I'm the exact opposite of all those impressions or adjectives that you just mentioned. I am not that talkative. I am not that loud. If I were in a room with a bunch of people, not only would you not think I was a salesperson, you wouldn't even know I was in the room most of the time. So I am certainly the opposite of what you would expect for being a salesperson. But strangely enough, looking back on the course of my career, and I've been a realtor for a long time now, 35 years, I have found it to be a plus. And the reason for whatever success I have achieved is because of this, not despite being quieter and introvert. So that's been kind of an interesting realization that I've had. And also looking around further within my industry, I've come to notice that the majority of the top salespeople are not those who you would expect. The loud, friendly, outgoing ones are generally not the top salespeople, but the quieter introverts usually do most of the selling.
When I ask people the question, when they say things like they're not cut out for sales, I ask, who would you rather buy from? Someone that is extremely talkative, that talks over you, that is the most outgoing person in conversation, but doesn't listen, versus someone who is quiet and is listening and has a mindset of service. Which one would you rather work with? And people invariably say the second, right? Then no one really wants to work with that first person. And so I believe that it's just a misunderstanding in that people think that salespeople, the good ones, are like that. What's your thought?
No, absolutely. I agree. I think a lot of times when people come in contact with a salesperson, whether they're looking for a house, a car, or whatever they're looking to buy, they have some apprehension because they don't want someone aggressive, pushy. So when they come to work with someone who is a little quieter and who will listen rather than being so pushy and talkative, they tend to let their defenses down a little bit after some time and relax. And they realize they can work with you a lot better and talk to you and just become more comfortable. So that's where the good working relationship starts. And so it's really a plus not to be so outgoing or aggressive or pushy.
Yeah, I like it. When you bring up the buyer or the person that's looking for something, it sounds like you really put yourself in their shoes.
When I started in the business, was given a sales training course, which was your standard, I guess, hard sale approach. And the instructor, he insisted you memorize word for word and use.
Yeah.
So he's like, here's what you have to say when you first meet the person. And here's like 10 ways to close the sale. And if this doesn't work, try this. If that doesn't work, do this. And it all sounded so phony to me. It just wasn't stuff I would say. And I wasn't comfortable talking that way to anybody. So I decided early on, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to be a regular guy. I'm just going to try to help them like I would want to be helped and just serve them. And lo and behold, it ended up working.
Yeah, it's so radical. Man, you should have written a book, Selling with Dignity.
I may work on that for next year. That's a possibility.
Oh my goodness. It's so funny. This idea of the hard close. I just put a post out on LinkedIn about closing hard, and do buyers like salespeople that close hard? And some people misinterpreted that because I think they felt that closing hard means that you're asking for the business. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being annoyingly asking for the business, right? Where if this doesn't work, try this. If this doesn't work, try that. So now you've got this back and forth that now becomes me against the buyer versus me sitting at the same side of the table as the buyer. What's your thought?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I felt when I started. I felt like I was being taught that the buyer was kind of almost the enemy or an obstacle that we had to overcome, and rather than serving them and helping them. If you just help them achieve what they want, they're with you for a reason. They want to buy whatever your product is. Otherwise, they wouldn't be with you and spending time with you. So they do have an intention of wanting to buy. So all you have to do is serve them and help them. And if you do that well, you really don't have to hard close at all.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, I have my idea of what a close should look like. What does it look like in your business?
Well, again, I'm in the real estate business. So I'll give you two examples. One when I'm with a buyer, one when I'm with a seller. So opposite ends of the spectrum. Now, I mentioned I don't believe you should do any hard closes and continuously try to combat them. But I do believe you should ask for the business in an unsalesy way, low pressure way. So when I'm showing houses to people, after we see a few houses or we're done with whatever is on our itinerary to look at, I will simply ask them, have you found a home you'd like to try to work something out on? That's it. That's my close. It's really low key, easy.
Pressure is killing me on that.
Yeah, I know. That's all I ask them is anyone can do that. You don't have to be serious. Have you found a home you'd like to try to work something out on? That's not going to threaten anybody.
The crowd's going wild.
Yeah.
It's such a great question. Okay, so then what? What happens?
And most of the time they'll say, yeah, we like that. We like that last house we saw. Let's see if we can get it. So then we'll go ahead and write up an offer. But that's all there is to it. Or the other thing could happen is, no, we haven't quite found something yet that really struck our fancy. So then I'll schedule an appointment to meet with them again and go out another time. Yeah. But I think you have to at least ask if they're ready to buy. And then on the flip side, when I'm with the seller, I'll be in their house sitting at their kitchen table usually, and I'll have gone over an analysis of their house and talked about what I believe it would sell for, what I would do to market it. For a seller, I guess this would be a closing technique, but I learned it's called the assumptive close. I don't even say anything. I just assume they're going to list the house with me. So we finish my presentation and I simply pull out a seller's disclosure, a form that they fill out that says what's working or not working in their home. It's not a contract. It's not threatening. I just say the first thing we need to do is complete this disclosure. I just go right into that. I don't even ask them if they're ready to put their home in the market or list. And so again, it's real easy, non-threatening. If they're willing to sign the disclosure, they're going to go ahead with you.
Yeah.
If not, they'll give you an injunction right there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So easy peasy. Sounds like.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing
Yeah.
to it.
Why do you think people make it so complicated? Where does the complication come in?
I think they just get a little nervous about what to say or have the right words or how to overcome objections. I think they're looking more at trying to sell rather than trying to serve. If you're doing what the customer or client wants, you're serving them, you're helping them, and
Mhm.
it's an easy process. You're just helping them get what they want or achieve their goals. If you're selling them, then you're trying to talk them into something that they may not necessarily want or be ready for right now. And that's where it gets a little scarier and more pressure, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was just reading a book, The Perfect Close by James Muir, and he talks about, some he did a lot of research years ago on closing. And I remember reading a book on closes from somebody who will remain nameless.
Okay.
And when you think of the dozens, like you mentioned, the assumptive close, I mean, a few come to mind. That one you reminded me of. And then I thought of the puppy dog close, the either or things people come up with. But if you start thinking about these things in the process, you lose sight of what you're really doing, which is serving the person.
Exactly. If you're serving somebody and helping them achieve their goals, you shouldn't be having to think in your head of one dialogue after another to try to convince them to do something that they hopefully want to do already on their own.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You,
So
you haven't
it's
served them or you miss what they're looking for. You have to come up with all these closes.
totally James Muir references Neil Rackham, the author of Spin, and how Neil did a study where, I don't know, 35,000 is a big number of salespeople were interviewed. And they talked about the closing techniques and styles. What was the most fascinating thing is the more skilled the people were on closing techniques, the worse they performed.
Oh, wow.
The ones that performed the best had intent. They had the right intentions, right? And to me, why didn't I read this like 20 years ago? I'm reading
Yeah.
it today, but it's something I just did like you did. It's just do the right thing. And I got to admit, I did try a period of time of going around a circle, getting people to say yes to everything, say yes to these 14 things. The 15th is, so we're going to go ahead and draw this up. It's like, yes, because, you program them 14 times now to say yes. So it's automatic, right? And if they say no, it's the person's a total loser or whatever. And then you got to think of your other 38 closing.
I remember I had that kind of training too, where you got to get them to say yes, 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 and they have it saying yes. But I never really did that. I'm glad you brought up that book. That bodes well for you and me both. I don't have all these closing techniques and dialogue perfected. I just do what feels right to me and let the chips
Yeah,
fall where they may.
exactly. I was on this podcast yesterday with a person who says, so if you don't have all these closes, what do you say? I said, I don't know, something like, you want to go ahead and wrap this up?
Yeah, there you go.
Right. Just keep it really simple. And I just put it in the common vernacular. Like, this is not a life-changing decision. Just, do you want to go ahead and wrap it up? You want to draw it up? You want to, make this official? Something like that, just to make it somewhat lighter than what the decision could be.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
just be yourself. You don't have to put on
Yeah.
this super salesperson persona all of a sudden. Just be yourself and people will be comfortable with that.
Yeah. All right. So now that raises the other question. Okay. So what is yourself, right? Because how do you answer that one?
Myself? What is
Yeah.
myself?
All right. So like, if someone's like, how sometimes people have to think about who they really are. I'm chuckling because someone asked me this recently and I'm like, wow, do like people sometimes second guess and third guess really who they are and what is acceptable in being themselves?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Okay.
All the time. But I guess I'm just thinking of myself as a regular guy. I'm just a regular guy trying to help out people achieve their goals. That's it.
And it's just the simpler we can look at it. So is there second guessing that you I mean, not now because you've been doing this for over a decade. Did you struggle with that in the beginning at all about finding who you really were? Because you started at a relatively young age in sales.
I did. I was one of the youngest people in my community in real estate when I
Yeah.
started out.
Yeah.
You're probably wondering like, what, well, this guy isn't a natural salesperson. Why is he even in sales to begin with? And I never planned to be a salesperson. I never planned to follow this path. I just really didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to college. I was an A student. So I basically could have done pretty much whatever I wanted to do. But the
Yeah.
problem was I didn't have this burning desire to do anything in particular. So I ended up following my parents' path into real estate. They were in real estate and doing pretty well. So I thought, if they're doing well, I guess I'll follow them into the business. I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
My father was an entirely different person than me.
Oh,
He was very domineering, aggressive, intimidating. People would be scared of him. They'd be
yeah.
literally shaking after they talked to him. He wasn't a real good at people person. He was very
Yeah.
good at selling in his own way,
Yeah.
but he was not, we were very different. So I had to learn how to do things my way because he would tell me, he would give me suggestions of what to say. And it was like, it doesn't work for me.
I could never say that, Dad. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. If people didn't buy after one or two times out, he would have me tell them just to get lost or go elsewhere. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's not me. I can't do that. I have a little more empathy towards people, but yeah. So,
Yeah.
but,
I mean, yeah. So this getting into real estate at a young age brings its own challenges. One,
it does.
right. Yeah. I mean, because I think my perception is I would want someone who's been around the block a little bit if they're going to help me, make a decision on a house. Did that ever come up or no?
Actually, not too much.
Okay.
I think it was a little more prevalent on the higher end homes, which is
Yeah.
understandably because
Okay.
your home is a good chance it's your biggest investment that you have.
Yeah.
And if you're selling a high end home, you probably most likely want someone that has a lot of experience to help you with it. So it was a little more prevalent on the higher end properties. I typically worked middle of the market.
Yeah.
I like working with average homes because that's where all the action is really
Yeah.
around the mid market. So in that segment of the market, I really never had much of an issue on it.
Okay.
If you have confidence in yourself and you have to come across with confidence, which takes a little while
Yeah.
to grow because at first you learn from the school of hard knocks, right? You make a lot of mistakes, but you hopefully don't make them twice. But once you build up a little bit of confidence, then people tend to trust you and they go along with you and work with you.
Yeah. Great. What was like a couple of the challenges that you had in the beginning that, I mean, were you ever to the point where you got thinking that this may not be for you?
I don't think I ever felt that. The challenges would be basically having to learn to make phone calls and follow up with people a lot of times because people oftentimes won't purchase immediately and they might be several months or longer process before they're ready. So it's the following up. You have to learn the fine line between being attentive and following up versus being too aggressive and too pushy. So that's one. And the other, which I think would apply to any sales profession, is going to be rejection because you're going to get a lot of no's. A lot of times you're going to get turned down. You go to list a house for sale, they list with somebody else. You end up showing buyer's house, they buy from somebody else, or whatever your product is, they don't end up buying from you. And so you have to try to learn, why didn't they work with me?
Yep.
What could I have done better? And it's hard. I mean, it's hard a lot of times because it can get you down, but you have to learn to overcome it. But it kind of fires me up in a way too. When something doesn't go right, it gets me fired up to go out there and get after the next one and I have a success the next time.
Yeah. So you have like a competitiveness or something like where you're kind of looking at, yeah. So it's tied into like just dealing with that rejection. And someone recently brought up to me and this said something along about the word no. It's like, do we really hear the word no, or is it circumstances and events that take place that are negative, right? They like it's a lost deal, it's a lost opportunity. People don't often tell us in my world, they don't often say no. They say, we went with someone else. Rejection, because it feels almost personal. And it's hard, I think, for some of us to not take this stuff personally.
It's very hard. It's very hard. It's still hard after all the years I've done this. No one ever likes getting rejected. I tell myself to get my ego out of this, not about me.
Yeah.
Maybe I had a past client and they bought a house from me and then they go to sell and I see in the computer, they listed with somebody else. They didn't even call me. So, I'm like, what happened?
Right.
I thought we worked together well. Why didn't they list with me? But then you have to realize it may not be about me at all.
Yeah.
Maybe their spouse has a best friend all of a sudden that is
Exactly.
a realtor
Yeah.
that they wanted to work with. So I may have nothing to do with it. So you just don't know what's going through someone's head. And you just have to try to step back and get your ego out of it, which is easier said than done, but you have to try to do it the best you can.
What helps you to do that?
I try to think I win more often than I lose. And I think most people do, or else you're not going to last in your sales profession. So you try to think about all the wins you've had and the great times you've had working with other people and let that just dwell on the positives, not let that one negative overcome 10 positive experiences that we've had.
Yeah, exactly. So looking back at past wins, I think too is that sometimes I just have to think about who likes me. Because as dumb as that sounds, but there's a lot of people that like you as a person. And they would buy from you if given the opportunity. They're just not always in the market. So think of the people that really like you. They like you for a reason. And, it just doesn't mean that everything is going to click with everyone that we meet. It just,
You're not going to be the right fit for everyone, which is another hard lesson to learn, but you're just not going to be the ideal salesperson for everybody, no matter who you are, no matter what you're like. Another example I've had a few times, I've gone to talk to someone about listing a home and they end up listing with somebody else. And I come to find out they decided they wanted to work with a woman rather than a man.
Yeah.
What can I do? So, you're not, you're not going to be the right
put a
person.
wig on.
You're not going to be the right fit for everybody, no matter who you are. You just have to realize that.
Yeah, totally. The negativity that comes up, I chose this business too. I chose sales. It's like, you're always looking in the mirror. If you do, I think if you do things the right way, I may be wrong on this, but I know people who are in sales, super thick skin. Every time they lose a deal, their prospect's an idiot. That person is such an idiot. They don't know. They're going to get so messed up and hosed and whatever. They're going to come back begging to do business with me. So you got those people. And then there are people like us who are like, what could I have done better? I have to be my best always. And I want to keep getting better so that I minimize those losses. What's your thought on that?
I agree. You have to try to learn what you can do better. Sometimes there may not be anything. It could be something else out of your control. I heard a saying once that I always think about. Greg Popovich, who's the basketball coach for the San Antonio Spurs, if anyone's a basketball fan out there, he always said, don't let one loss turn into two losses. Meaning, if you lose a game, don't dwell on it and get down and then find out because of that, you lose the next game. You got to put it out of your mind and move forward to the next event with a positive attitude and a good focus on that. So I've tried to put that in my mind also whenever I've had a negative outcome. Don't let that one loss turn into two.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, is certain people, and I know I've tested, I don't know what the names of the tests were, but when I look at the results, it says, Harry gets over, he gets over a negative experience quickly, and that's interesting, right? But it's a trait that is super helpful in sales that you can go down like, sometimes sales, like you're thinking, this commission is going to set me for the year.
Exactly.
And then it doesn't happen and they go with the competition, or somebody dies in the C-level and the decision gets pushed off, and or they sell the business. All kinds of weird things happen in sales. I mean, and they can be devastating. But those of us who get over it quickly, like maybe a day or two, we're back at it, looking for another beating sometimes. It's the way I feel. But, you call someone that loves you and you say, oh, yeah, you're great. We so well love your product and we're still using it, and it's been a real game changer for us. You hear that a couple times. It's like, oh, yeah, this stuff is good. So I had to go back and help more people.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I've heard someone else say, just suffer 10-minute defeats and then move on. You get mad for 10 minutes, be upset, but then it's gone, put on your mind. I strive to do that. It's hard, but I will try to reach out to somebody right after that 10-minute defeat. I try to turn it into a positive. I try to get fired up from the negative
Yeah.
experience and get raring to go for the next person and ready to hit the road running.
I like it. So 10 minutes you give yourself. I give myself probably 10 hours. I like the 10 minutes. Give me something to work on.
I try not to let it last 10 hours. Although, I'm not perfect either. I mean, that happens to me too.
I know someone, she says that she has to go buy shoes.
That can get
It's
expensive.
a devastating loss. Not only do you not get the commission, you have to go spend more money on
You're
it.
broke now too. Yeah.
But yeah, there's all kinds of things that we do to keep our sanity, especially if you've been doing it for a good number of years like we have. So it's great stuff. What advice do you have for the person that's a little bit on the shy side and they're entrepreneur or solopreneur, they want to grow their business, but they feel like they just don't want to come across as the pushy salesperson? How can you help those people?
Okay. Well, perfect. I'm that person. I've been there and I've lasted for a long time in real estate. So if I can do it, you can do it. And just play into your strengths. You don't have to be real outgoing or pushy. Just listen, just try to serve people, help them achieve their goals, and follow up with them, make them feel important, make them feel special. And you can do it. You don't have to try to be like anybody else.
Yeah, it's beautiful advice. Because that intention, if that intention comes across versus the nervousness of trying to look and be someone who you aren't.
Right. Just be yourself. You don't have to act phony. It'll come out that you're not that way, but you're good enough the way you are. You can do it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this is awesome. Then you mentioned something too about asking for the business. I wrote a chapter in the book purely on don't be afraid of making the ask. What's your thought about the ask?
Yeah, I think you always should ask for the business. You have to give the people an opportunity to buy from you. If you don't, then really you're missing out. But I always do it in a very easy, unsalesy, unpressurized way. But you do need to ask, give them the opportunity to buy from you.
Yeah, I mean, because buyers they don't make the same assumptions that we make, right? People I've heard will say things like, well, I assume they know I want the business because I have a business. So I spoke to them. So they should already know I want the business. Is that true or not?
That's a very good point. A lot of people don't know how we work or how we get paid. In my profession, we're on commission. A lot of people don't realize that. They don't realize that we don't get paid if we don't sell anything. So sometimes they otherwise may call somebody else in your company or office and not realize that they've cut you out
Yeah.
unintentionally. But so you do have to ask for the business. And I don't want to make my compensation or me first priority. They come first. But yes, you do need to let them know the next step or ask for the sale.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not always easy, but the other side of it is a buyer could say it didn't look like you really wanted it. I mean, I've heard that before. I'm a pretty low key person, and I know
Yeah.
that came up years ago. And when that comes up once, it's like, I'm not going to let that happen again.
I've had the same thing because I can err on that too low key side also. I don't want the business that bad. I'm not that interested. So
Yeah.
another good reason why you have to make sure to ask for the business.
And so, even simple, what would be a simple way of showing someone that you really want the business? That this is not just, me being a friend. I mean, I'm going to be a friend. I'm going to serve you, but I also really need to ask for the business. And so maybe they asked and the person wasn't ready to do something. And then they just let them sit out there, would be like the classic example, is that now the person is just, well, they were interested, last week. I'm just going to let them sit and they'll come back if they're really interested.
Well, the follow up is often the key to success in sales because a high percentage of people aren't going to buy the first time you meet
Hmm.
them. So if they made it clear they're not ready to buy right now, I will let them know, first of all, that I really enjoyed meeting with them. I appreciate their time and I look forward to helping them in the future when they're ready. Then I will follow it up. I like to write a personal handwritten note to them because people so seldom ever get handwritten notes in the mail.
Yeah.
I'm talking the old fashioned snail mail
Yeah.
because usually what do you get in the mail? You get bills, you get junk, whatever. But if you ever see a handwritten note in the mail, you're going to open that first and it kind of makes
Hmm.
you stand out and it makes them feel appreciated. And then again, I'm going to follow it up a few days later with a phone call and
Okay.
just an easy, unsalesy call. Hey, Harry, I enjoyed meeting with you the other day. Just wanted to follow up and see if you had any further questions. I'm not pushing them. I'm not trying to talk them into sale. Just see where you're at,
Okay.
but show I'm interested in you. I had the opposite before. When I was a customer, I was looking at a time for a financial advisor to help. I was thinking about hiring a financial advisor. So I interviewed somebody. And after we finished talking, I never heard back from her ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a card, not an email, nothing. So I kind of felt like I'm questioning myself and thinking, maybe she didn't want to work with me. Maybe she didn't
Mhm.
like me. Maybe I wasn't a good client for her. So I want your clients will feel appreciated if you follow up with them properly. Let them know that you really want to work with them and you want to help them and you
Exactly.
appreciate them.
Yeah. And I think that's the disconnect, that people who are not in sales but need to sell and are not as the outgoing type A, but they're the unsales person as well, is you cannot do what you just described, is have that one and done and think the person's going to come back, because they're going to get someone else that's just going to be really persistent. And then there's you that they're going to forget about because you haven't even resurfaced. Not a thank you email, not, it was great speaking with you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I think we'd work great together. Things like that. Then it's like, well, that warms you up versus you went cold. Am I not a good prospect? I mean, yeah, I think that's a danger.
Yeah, agreed. And they're gonna forget who you are too. Don't assume they're gonna just remember you a month later. They're gonna totally
Right.
forget they ever talked to you.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned something interesting, I thought, is that most people won't even remember the real estate agent after 6 months or something like that.
Yeah, I saw this in a study a long time ago and it always stuck with me. And it was when someone buys a home 6 months later, the vast majority of people can't remember the name of the realtor they bought from. And not only that, they can't remember the company they work for. So if you don't keep in touch with your clients, they are not going to remember you. They're not going to know who you are in very short order.
Yeah.
So it's very important to follow up.
And you're keeping in touch is not calling every month asking if they're looking to buy or sell their house.
But it depends who this person is. If it's a potential buyer, I'll follow up and just say, just want to check in, see how you're doing, anything I can do for you. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Just let them know I remember them, see how I can help. I'm not trying to say, hey, you ready to buy now? I'm not doing that.
Right. Have you, yeah. I mean, I've listened to your podcast. I mean, you do such great things with your clients and your circle of influence, or your sphere of, staying in touch with people. And there's different things. So Where, if people want more of you, Barry, and I think they should, because you fit the persona that a lot of people in business have, which is probably half the population, right? I mean, I think some of us are in between the introvert and the extrovert. There's a good percentage that are introverted that have their own business. And I think they can learn a lot from your style and your approach to sales. So where can people find more of you?
Well, I have a podcast called The Real Estate Unsalesperson. It's not all the episodes are not real estate specific. So if you are in a other sales field, hopefully you'll still get some value out of it. But it's called the Real Estate Unsalesperson podcast. And the website is therealestateunsalesperson.com.
Yeah. In preparation for the show, Barry outlines 5 ways to stay in touch with people who have bought from you or influencers in your community, that you can continue to stay in touch with those people. And you do 2 or 3 of those things, you're going to separate yourself from the pack. So appreciate you spending some time with me today, Barry, and chatting sales from an unsalesperson kind of guy. This has been fun.
Thanks, Harry. I really enjoyed it. You got a great show.
All right, man. We'll talk soon. Thanks again. Thanks for listening to Sales Made Easy. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. Also, you're invited to join the Facebook group Sales Training Selling with Dignity. Serve first, the selling will follow.